Humans have been made to believe that there are 7 continents. That is, Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Australia and Antarctica. And this formed the basis for determining the world's maps and search engines. However, this was not the case about 300 million years ago, when there was only one continent on Earth. Pangaea was a sizable supercontinent that was encircled by Panthalassa, a single ocean. It was only during the Triassic period, which was about 200 million years ago, that Pangaea started to fragment. Then 2 continents were birthed, Laurasia and Gondwanaland. Laurasia, which was small, broke off into Europe, Asia and North America, while Gondwanaland split to form South America, Africa, Australia, Antarctica, the Indian subcontinent and the Arab Peninsula. Apart from these, Gondwanaland also had a portion that researchers were only able to find after 375 years. If nothing, we are aware that water constitutes more than 71% of the surface of the Earth. But what else lies in the depths of this water? How long has it been existing? Keep watching as we unveil the mystery that surrounds the underwater discovery. Let's quickly do a bit of history. In 1642, Abel Tasman, a Dutch sailor, set off on an expedition to the southern hemisphere, at a time when the portion of the Earth was unknown to Europeans. Nonetheless, they believed there was a large mass to balance out the northern hemisphere where they lived. They named it Terra Australis. While Tasman was revealing his discovery of the Great Southern Continent, that is New Zealand, the Europeans doubted him. However, the recent discovery of Zelandia by a group of geologists in 2017 was a confirmation that Tasman was right about his assertion that there was a missing continent. A vast continent of up to 1.89 million square miles, Zelandia has been lying beneath 6,560 feet, that's 2 kilometers of water. The first real clues of its existence weren't known until Sir James Hector, a Scottish naturalist, concluded in his voyage to the southern coast in 1895 that New Zealand is the submerged remnant of a mountain chain. Despite this discovery, nothing much was still known about a possible Zealandia. Then in the 1960s, geologists took a step towards what could be categorized as a continent, and they agreed that a continent must have a geological area with a high elevation, a variety of rocks, and a thick crust. This definition would come to support the evidence of an 8th continent. It was in 1995 that Bruce LUYENDYK, an American geophysicist, described the region as a continent, naming it Zealandia. Around the same time, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea allowed countries to extend their legal territories up to 370 kilometers out from their coastlines, as well as dominate the mineral resources that lie therein. Interestingly, multiple trips to survey New Zealand were funded, leading to the collection of evidence that helped to make the case for Zealandia. Its fate as a continent was finally sealed when satellite data obtained from the exploration of the Earth's gravity to map the seafloor clearly revealed the region as a misshapen mass that is as large as Australia. This discovery was terrifying to the world. To think that Zealandia only encompassed 3 territories, New Zealand, New Caledonia, and the Australia's territories of Lord Howe Island and Ball's Pyramid on it, as against every other known continent with different countries on them. Now let's see what Zealandia used to be prior to the discovery. Zealandia was originally a part of the ancient continent of Gondwana, formed about 550 million years ago. It was only 105 million years ago that Zealandia started to be pulled away. The process that led to this was a completely obscure one. It was stretched to the extent that its crust extends 20 kilometers or 12.4 miles down, which is below the level of normal oceanic crust. Thus, it disappeared under the sea. How did it become known as a continent, despite being thin and submerged? The kind of rocks geologists found in Zealandia led them to the conclusion. Usually, continental crust tends to consist of igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks, while the ocean floor is made of only igneous rocks such as basalt. Despite this discovery, geologists are baffled with how it managed to stay together, rather than disintegrate into many continents, especially when its tiny nature is considered. As we said earlier, there is a lot of mystery surrounding underwater discovery, and this is definitely one of them. When exactly did Zealandia end up underwater? Has it ever consisted of dry land? Could it be regarded as a continent? Keep watching. There are several opinions as regards to the parts that are above the sea level and those that are submerged. Some opine that the parts above sea level are ridges that formed as the Australian and Pacific tectonic plates. This leads us to the question about the inhabitants of the southern hemisphere. Though fossilized land animals are rare in the region, the remains of several animals were found in New Zealand between the early 90s and late 2000s after the split of Zealandia from Gondwana. Some of them include the rib bone of a sauropod, a giant long-tailed and necked dinosaur, a hypsilophodon, a beaky herbivorous dinosaur, and an ankylosaur, an armored dinosaur. To many scientists, this doesn't translate into the presence of dinosaurs in Zealandia, as most of the islands may have served as a haven, while the rest drowned. However, they believe that the kiwi, a dumpy flightless bird, and moa once lived on Gondwana. According to a finding, Gondwana fully broke up after 130 million years, leaving behind fragments that are scattered across the globe to form South America, Madagascar, Africa, Australia, Antarctica, the Indian subcontinent, the Arabian Peninsula, and Zealandia. The implication of this is that some parts of the now submerged Zealandia have remained above sea level, except about 25 million years ago when the entire continent was believed to have been plunged underwater, after which plants and animals colonized them. Realizing that there was no way they could collect fossils from the seafloor of Zealandia directly, scientists decided to explore the zillions of tiny and distinctive fossils that form in the shallow seas. These fossils helped scientists to trace the history of the lost continent of Zelandia. In 2017, a team drilled more than 4,101 foot into the seabed of 6 different sites, where they collected some cores containing pollen from land plants and shells of organisms that once lived in warm, shallow seas. According to Rupert Sutherland, a professor of geophysics and tectonics at the Victoria University of Wellington, the pollen suggests that Zealandia might not be as submerged as they thought. There is a little twist to this. Looking at the geological map of New Zealand, one would observe the Alpine Fault, a plate boundary that runs along the South Island, and how the geology of New Zealand is oddly bent at the meeting point of the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates, such that the ribbons of rock stand at right angles rather than form a continuous line. While it may be the case that the tectonic plates got deformed at the point of moving, how and when it happened remains an unsolved puzzle. Of course, there are a host of other explanations that are not as explicit as expected. We can only hope that the puzzle will be solved with subsequent discoveries that will shock the world. It's just a matter of time. However, the underwater discovery was the 8th continent and had been lying under the ocean all the while. What's your view about the discovery of the 8th continent? Kindly leave a comment below. Don't forget to like the video and ring the notification bell for more mysteries that will be unveiled.